So, I thought I'd do a video today based on a hot topic of conversation surrounding Modern Warfare, and that of course is skill-based matchmaking. Now, among the many things currently wrong with Modern Warfare, skill-based matchmaking, which I'll be referring to as SBMM for the duration of this video, is probably one of the most controversial talking points so far. There's many different views on it, many different opinions and outlooks, and I'm going to be completely honest with my initial reaction to learning about it being in the game. So at the very beginning, when I first learned about SBMM being present within Modern Warfare, I really didn't see what the issue was. People that know me on a personal level know that I'm a big believer in equality. I enjoy people having equal opportunities. And for those of you who perhaps just know me in general from playing online will know my background in games over the last few years. And I would say over the last few years, perhaps the last 3, the majority of my time has been spent on a game called Overwatch. Now, if you're unsure what Overwatch is, its main focus is a 6v6 first-person shooter based in a fictitious world of heroes and villains. Every character has a specific role, has a special ability, and multiple other abilities that only they themselves can perform. As a result of this, the game relies upon a considerable amount of teamwork. Every player on the team has a very important role, and you will often find that if one person slacks off at their role, you will probably find yourself at a considerable disadvantage compared to your opposition. So because of the importance of every player, skill-based matchmaking is an ever-present component of the game. It doesn't really matter whether you're playing ranked competitive or just enjoying the casual quick play option, it will always be there. So initially, upon learning about it being in Modern Warfare, I truly wasn't against it. I thought it would be a good addition to the game because I thought it was fair. It has really good intentions and it seems really important to have. There would be noobs with noobs and elites versus elites. Now obviously when talking about SBMM, we have to try and understand exactly what it means by skill. How does the game define your skill level? Well, the honest answer is nobody is really 100% sure right now. There is speculation that it's solely based upon your kill to death ratio, others believe it's only to do with your win-loss ratio, and others believe it's a combination of both. A popular YouTuber by the name of Exclusive Ace did some research into the topic and his findings showed a correlation between both KD and win-loss ratios, but also your player level as well. But the most interesting part of this research that he conducted was the fact that it seemed to only be a few games of playing well or not that well that dramatically increased or decreased the skill bracket that you were placed in. Essentially what I mean is, if you were to play badly for 4 or 5 games, that is losing the match and having a negative kill to death ratio, you would drop into a noticeably easier game due to the dramatic shift. I've actually already witnessed firsthand people taking advantage of this system by killing themselves repeatedly around 50 times a match over the course of maybe 4 or 5 matches, just to drop into a lower skill bracket for the next few games. But I'll come back onto this issue in just a moment. Now, one of the reasons I believe that Exclusive Ace's research and findings were correct is because of my own personal experience with the game. Now, you've probably noticed from the footage in the background that my gameplay is very much objective based. I die a lot trying to score points for my team, and I couldn't really care all that much about my KD ratio as a whole. Generally, I want to win the game for my team. Because of my gameplay style, I do have a lot of varied success. Some games I'll do extremely well in getting onto the point, scoring and getting kills, and others I'll have very little kills and a ridiculous amount of deaths. Now this kind of variation is how Call of Duty has always been for me. The varied level of success is exactly how COD should be without skill-based matchmaking. That variation is a good thing. And what I mean is, some games you join will have awesome players that wipe the floor with you, and others will have people that play like they're missing thumbs. There is no way to predict what kind of players that you're going to have in your match until you play the game. So the randomization of players and the complete variation and vast array of different people is a really good thing. Now obviously because it's a hot topic of conversation, people do tend to have a negative view towards SBMM. So generally I like to ask people about their experience with it. They usually tell me that their games are constantly filled with sweaty players, campers, people using the meta weapons, and people on their team who are really not playing the objective all that much. Now similarly to Exclusive Ace, I kind of conduct my own research and I usually respond to these people with a few questions. My first question is to ask them what their overall kill to death ratio is, and my second is to ask them what their overall win to loss ratio is. Now rather intriguingly, the majority of them respond with high values for both kill to death and win loss. And when I say high values, I mean a kill to death ratio of over 2 and a win-loss ratio of at least over 1. I then ask them what game modes they play, and they usually tell me they play something like Domination, Headquarters, Kill Confirmed, Hardpoint, or basically any other mode that isn't TDM, Search, or Cyber Attack. And from these responses, I can assume a fair bit about why their experience with SBMM is so bad. If you're a player that values their kill to death ratio, the honest truth is you're gonna get matched with players who also value their kill to death ratio. If your general style of play revolves around camping, barely touching the objectives, trying to rack up huge kill streaks and earn yourself a bigger KD overall, guess what? You're gonna be put with the people of the same kind of ethos. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with SBMM at all, but I'm just saying it makes sense as to why you're having a lousy experience. I mean, picture the scene. You dominate 5 matches in a row, winning them all with a KD ratio of 2 to 3, or maybe even higher over the course of these games. The game seems relatively fast paced, and people on your team and the opposite are throwing themselves onto the objective to try and win the game, and you're throwing grenades onto this point, shooting them whilst they jump onto them. Most people around you are struggling to maintain a positive KD ratio. So yeah, you win these games, and with your KD being considerably higher than everybody else's, and maybe you have managed to touch the objective a couple of times, the game says, oh, so he won these matches, he got a massive difference in kills compared to deaths, and did participate somewhat in the objective. I guess he's too good for those opposition, let's place him up a bracket. And then here comes the issue. People in your games are suddenly being extremely conservative. Barely anyone touching the point, people are hugging decent sightlines across the map, not really moving, trying to earn big kill streaks, and camping a fair bit more than what you'd seen before in games previous, and yada yada yada. Now, I'm not gonna lie, earning kill streaks in COD was always my playstyle in every COD previous to it, and there was nothing special about the way that I played. In fact, some might consider it to be quite dirty. I was a player that used to find the best spots on the map for racking up kills in a safe manner, using head glitch spots, claymores, meta weapons, and etc. Basically places I couldn't really be flanked from without me getting the upper hand on them. And every previous Call of Duty that I'd played before had some variation of players. We had people that would throw themselves at the objective, which made for easy kills for me. Some would camp, and others would try getting kill streaks, and others would be a mixture of both. And we had people that would try using many different types of weapons. So this made it easier for people like me to try and hoard my KD and earn massive kill streaks, including a nuke. But in Modern Warfare with SBMM, if you play like a KD hoarder, it puts you into these boring, slow-paced, conservative games where everyone's doing the same thing as you, and it just makes for a shitty experience. Basically, the game takes how you play and gives you 11 other people that play exactly the same as you. Now, players are lacking the variation of games. Every game seems to be the same, and the only time they seem to have fun is when they lose a few games in a row and or do badly, and the game drops them a bracket and puts them into a game of players of lower skill. Now, I'm not saying for one moment that wanting to stomp players is a valid reason for removing skill-based matchmaking, because it's not. But what I am saying is, it's just a lousy experience constantly being put against people who play the same as you. There's no variation. I mean, where is the variation in that? It's a massive reason why people are already bored of the game and calling it stale. Now, obviously, as I said earlier, I don't tend to play like a KD hoarder very much these days. I like to throw myself onto the point. I genuinely find that the camping kind of playstyle of trying to earn my KD and getting massive kill streaks is kind of underwhelming for me these days, but I know so many players that still find it very rewarding. And now they're really struggling to achieve any kind of reward from the game because every game feels like the finals of some MLG Sweatfest competition. It just doesn't feel like a casual gameplay experience, because that's kind of what it is though, isn't it? Because it's not ranked. It's a casual gameplay. If people want to go against people of the same skill level as them, they'll play ranked. So obviously it begs the question, is skill-based matchmaking in the game just to protect new players? Do Infinity Ward and Activision agree that it's unfair placing new players into games that could potentially contain above average players? Do they believe it creates a more fair and reflective environment for people trying to improve their own gameplay? I mean, yes, on paper, SBMM should do these things, but people aren't stupid. There are loopholes in this system. Coming back onto what I mentioned earlier about people killing themselves repeatedly during a match, many of you are probably aware of an issue, particularly in games with ranked gameplay, called smurfing. Now, if you don't know what smurfing is, it's where an experienced player will deliberately create an alternative account, completely new, And essentially what they do is they reverse boost this account by playing terribly on purpose. So this can be done in a few different ways, like intentionally throwing games, griefing, and gameplay sabotage. And this is practically what people in Modern Warfare can do and abuse. They kill themselves up to 400 times in the space of 5 matches with C4 or thermite or whatever strange means, and because of this their SBMM bracket considerably drops. And then when they're placed into games with low skill noobs, they then decide to dominate, turning up the fire, trying to earn nukes and massive kill streaks, and basically yeah. Now I've seen some people say that they believe that the only way to increase the pace of the game is to essentially play with noobs who don't play so tactically. Camping. And obviously because these noobs don't necessarily have good reactions or good aim or even camp in the right spots, it leaves the reverse boosted experienced player a lot of opportunity to carry out run and gun strategies. In other words, it means they can rush, which is something that gets punished a lot in games with camping KD hoarders. It also opens up the opportunity for these players to use guns other than the meta weapons. Like yes, noobs use meta weapons too, but in the hands of a noob you have a better chance of using something like the Uzi or Dragunov Sniper against them without dying instantly. So basically this brings me to the pressing issue that skill-based matchmaking has. If people are brave enough, people can spend 5 games in a row killing themselves repeatedly, and then getting themselves placed into games with noobs. And that is just ludicrous. If skill-based matchmaking is meant to protect noobs, it doesn't. People just bypass it. And even with elite players, it creates a boring experience because pretty much everyone's just camping and trying to hold on to their KD ratio to earn big kill streaks and all that kind of jazz. It's just a lousy system for people. Everyone. Now we can all agree that skill-based matchmaking has good intentions. For me, at least in Overwatch, it was instrumental in bringing out that competitive edge in my gameplay. It helped me realise a lot of my own flaws and helped me to understand that a lot of these flaws that I'd previously blamed on my team were actually on me. And it was very satisfying for me to know that whenever I had a decent run of maybe 5 games, that this success was based on my own improvement because I was beating people of my level. Eventually I got to a level where smurfing was never an issue because I got good. But then I'd meet players of my same level that would say that they're creating alternative accounts to go and smash noob players in the lower tiers. And that's just a shitty experience for them down there. It's a shitty thing to do, yes, but it's just ultimately a shitty thing for everyone. Because whatever skill-based matchmaking is supposed to do, it doesn't do it well enough. It has too many flaws. Particularly in a game like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, where it's not even ranked gameplay, it's just super pointless. Now unfortunately Smurfs will always be a thing in ranked gameplay. We can't eradicate Smurfs from the face of the planet, unfortunately it's just not possible, it will just always have to be a thing. But do we really have to start dealing with this kind of issue in a casual gameplay experience? Where is the variation in games when we have skill-based matchmaking? It just gets stale too quick for good players, constantly playing against people who are doing the same shit as them, using meta weapons. And for the lower tiers, they're just struggling with these, for lack of a better word, smurfs in their casual experience, just dominating them. And I know I've basically just repeated myself for like the last 5 minutes, but I feel like I need to repeat myself for the emphasis on how ridiculous it is to have it in the game. But then we get onto the biggest problem about SBMM, which I haven't even covered yet. If the game is struggling to find you a fair match, possibly because you're up at 4 AM in the morning, your queue times will increase. Yes, okay, we can probably deal with that. I mean, I used to spend over 5 minutes in between games on Overwatch trying to find just casual matches, and sometimes even up to 30 matches to find a ranked game. So okay, we can probably deal with the queue time increase. But Modern Warfare does something that's just absolutely ridiculous. It prioritises skill-based matchmaking over your connection. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means if the only fair match for you is a game based in the outer reaches of the solar system, well guess what, you're being placed into this game, whereby you'll suffer the consequences of having a ping value of over 1000, where the shoot first die first problems come into play. I mean, why would you place skill-based matchmaking over connectivity? It's just absolutely absurd, and it's complete lunacy. And this is probably the biggest reason why I turned against it. Why would it ever be a good idea to have SBMM if someone in this match is going to be at a complete disadvantage anyway because of the crappy connection to the server that's completely out of his or her control? It's just unbelievable. Now personally I've not had any issues with my ping, but I've seen people post evidence on Reddit of how badly their games are performing because they're being put into these strange servers that are based on Saturn. So again, it just creates a completely lousy experience for that player. So please, Infinity Ward, if you're watching this, remove it. I'm going to sign out of this video now and leave you with the rest of the video in the background. Thanks for listening to me rant. Enjoy.
Enemy near main street. Get ready. We're about to move. I've been hit. Next hard point. Let's go. Hard point lost. Get ready. We're about to move. Hard point contested. Next hard point. Let's go. Hard point lost. Enemy UAV overhead. Enemy in the bus. Hard point secure. Hard point contested. Hard point lost. Get ready. We're about to move. Hard point secure. Hard point contested. Enemy's got the hard point. Go, get to the next one. We control the hard point. Enemy at the courtyard. We're crashing them. Stay with it. Enemy cruise missile incoming. He's got the hard point. Hard point protected. Hard point secure. Enemy in the bunch. 10 seconds. Get ready to move. Go. Get to the next one. Friendly UAV online. Enemy took the hard point. Enemy movement.
On your side!
I'm under attack. Let's go. We control the hard point. Enemy UAV overhead. Hard point detected. Enemy near Main Street. You've scored a victory. Let's have another.